Welcome, everybody, to the Dr. Mike and Shannon Show. And we are honored to once again have Dr. Martha Boone on our program today. This is part 2 of our series with Dr. Boone. The first part, we talked about UTIs and how women can help prevent getting UTIs. This video today, we're going to be talking about how Dr. Boone went from urologist to author. I mean, that's something fascinating that I'm sure many of you would like to learn about. We have been interviewing people who have created medical devices, launched products, and now we're talking to somebody who's gone from the field of medicine into writing their own books. So welcome, Dr. Martha Boone. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
So I first wanted to get in, you have 2 books that are currently out and a third that's on the way. The first one relates more to you being a urologist, now having been a urologist with the big three. And can you explain, because I do know that you yourself were down in New Orleans and you actually worked at Charity Hospital, and you took some of those experiences and it helped you then create the book, The Big Free, and the series, which Mother Charity is coming out in 2024. So can you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that?
So I've been writing since I was about 6 years old, and I always wrote stories to basically manage my emotions. So when something would happen, either particularly good or particularly bad, I would make up a story about it. And I think I'm also a bit of a little natural born liar, because everything that happens, I want to start making up a story about it. And, people who know me well will go, are you adding to that? So it's like everything in life kind of comes in story form to me. And when I went from South Carolina, in a little small, sleepy South Carolina town, to New Orleans during the worst of the crack wars, we were getting between 5 and 15 gunshot wounds to the chest and abdomen every day. And needless to say, there were a lot of emotions to process. It made for wonderful training, both at Tulane and at Charity, but it was quite an emotional experience dealing with all of that. And so the book came about because I had written a lot of stories about what had happened there. And it turns out, as I go around the country talking about the books, that these were the same experiences that people have had in other major inner city hospitals. And so doctors and nurses all over the country, and people in our military who've, done a lot of MASH type work, tell me, that a lot of the things in the book are things that happen to them also. So they're not just my stories, they're kind of the stories of all of us people in medicine who have worked in those environments.
And we can picture Elizabeth, because she's, coming from med school and is in Charleston, and then going to the big city of New Orleans, and she has her pearls on. And I had made a comment that, Dr. Boone has her pearls on, and, it's a little homage to Elizabeth in the book. So yeah, great book. You'll be able to, all of our watchers out there, you will be able to find out more information on Dr. Boone's website. It's www.marthaboone.com. But yet, so that then grows into your follow-up book that's coming out in 2024, and that's going to be Mother Charity. So do you have any little preview for us about what's going to be happening in Mother Charity?
So one of the complaints I got about The Big Free was that it was kind of unrealistic that a young woman who was 25 years old would have no romantic life. And that's obviously people who've only seen medicine on television, because they don't realize
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, we're walking around with other people's body fluids on us. It's not terribly romantic.
There was no time for social life. So.
Dating,
but in book 2, there's a little something going on, so I'll just plant that seed. So I heard what the reader said, and so I tried to write a little bit of romance, but I'm not a terribly romantic person. So one of my friends who writes books, who's an old FBI agent, I said, how do you do this romance thing? And she's like, well, it's easy for me because I just kill them off. I said, but I'm writing about doctors. I can't be killing off a romantic interest. So there will be some romance in the next book.
We were wondering if it was maybe based on personal experience.
Nah, of course not. Couldn't be at all.
Yeah,
And then
we have
you
no
also have,
life. That's for sure.
well, and you also have your third book, which is The Unfettered Urologist. I love this one since we do the Dr. Mike and Shannon show.
That's
And this is what you never, what you never had time to tell patients in a 15-minute office visit, which is fascinating because this is kind of a goes in line with what we talk about, like 5 questions you should ask your doctor at their appointments. So tell us a bit about this too. And again, you'll be able to find these information for these books and links to be able to order them on Dr. Boone's website.
So I had been retired about 18 months, and patients and referral doctors were still calling me. I had been in solo practice for about the last 24 years, and I didn't have an answering service. I just gave everybody my phone number, and most people were very respectful. But after I had quit working, I was just getting all these calls. And I was fascinated because I thought, you retire and then people forget about you. And 6 weeks later, you're old news and nobody's really thinking about you. And that's not what happened at all. And so I started writing the questions down and paying attention to what people wanted to know. And what they really wanted was my think outside of the box ability. So when you get to the end of the algorithm and you've done everything that's medically reasonable to do and your patient is not fixed, so then what do you do? They also wanted my experience, and they wanted my intuition, and they wanted my willingness to integrate with other fields in medicine. One of the biggest things that's overlooked in urology and gynecology is the power of pelvic floor physical therapy. And so I think, I was willing to send patients to physical therapy rather than operate on them, because patients would not be harmed, and a lot of the time they would be cured. And so my willingness to send people out to other practitioners was one of the other things that they were interested in hearing about. And I realized that the average doctor visit was getting shorter and shorter and getting more and more costly. And so the customer service just wasn't there. And so I wanted to try to add value by giving the patients the information that they would need to have good questions for common urology problems so that they could get the most out of their office visit, and also to introduce them to some of the other areas of medicine that could help them besides just the urologist or the gynecologist.
Now, also too, would you say these questions would be able to be related if they went in for an annual physical at even their primary care, or would these more be in line with urology, gynecology, and urology?
It's interesting. The book has really appealed to nurse practitioners and PAs. They're keeping it on their desk almost as like a manual for how to manage some of these problems. And I've had both primary care, family practice, PAs, nurse practitioners, and a lot of patients are kind of using it as you can look up your problem kind of manual. And so I think when someone goes in for their yearly, they definitely want to make sure that their urine is checked, because there are all kinds of things that we can learn in the urine. And I think a lot of times people are overlooking that. And so in the book, they can kind of read about what we should be looking for in the urine, which would give them a good idea of what to ask their doctor.
Now, would this be more for women, or would men be of benefit also? Because I know a lot of men don't realize that they can also go and do pelvic floor therapy as well.
Oh, yes. Some of the more detailed chapters are about erectile dysfunction and hormone replacement in men, which is a hot topic right now. And men really need good information, because there's so many people out there with fancy websites that want you to come in and spend a bunch of money, and they promise all these things. And then a lot of it is not good for your health. So I wanted to make sure that men had good quality information about hormone replacement. Then men have kidney stones, men have prostate cancer, men have bladder cancer, kidney cancer. So there's a lot in the book for men also.
Yeah, and if you ever want to see a grown man really cry, get a kidney stone.
Yeah,
That's the closest thing to childbirth you're going to get.
it's worse than childbirth, I think. I think it's worse than childbirth.
Hearing, but I'm still not believing. My boyfriend said that his nurse told him that. And I was like, I'm still not believing that, but okay. But no, this is great information. Dr. Mike, did you have any questions?
I 100% agree. I think there's not enough direction for us men out there
when it comes to these kind of things. And really, there's probably not enough direction for women out there too. I feel like we find ourselves, scouring YouTube and the internet. And I got to tell you, I've been on YouTube and I've seen some of the stuff on the internet, and it is just flat out wrong. I mean, it's almost dangerous. The direction that they try to direct people to, I know from what I do is just, it's just completely backwards from the way that it should be taught. And I don't say that because of, I'm just disagreeing with them. I'm saying it because I've seen people go down these paths, and I know what the outcome ultimately is. And I think that would be the reason why nurse practitioners and PAs probably take your book, put it right there, and they make that their Bible for the time that they're working with their patient, because it makes a lot of sense. So I'm really happy to have a chance to get a hand on this book myself, and it'll be interesting to see what I get out of it. So I'm looking forward.
Thank you. I look forward to your feedback.
Well, that, and just in general, and we keep saying this, medicine here in the States is so reactionary, instead of being proactive. So, having this information for, you to be able, for this, that, the general public has access to something written by a physician who specialized for over, 25 years in that area, and is able to provide you information of what you should know before you go into your appointment. That is just, because when people get into their appointment, it's like deer in the headlights, all of a sudden the light bulb shuts off, and it's hard to have that conversation. So now they have another guide to be able to take in, and we greatly, greatly appreciate that. And again, the website is www.marthaboone.com. Be sure to check it out. Check out her books coming up, The Big Free, and that's already out, and Mother Charity, that's coming out in 2024. And we thank you again so much for being on our show today, Dr. Martha Boone, and we greatly appreciate it. Any last words that either of you would like to close out with?
I just appreciate being here, and I hope everybody will remember that pelvic floor physical therapy is extremely helpful, and you should consider that before you have surgery.
Yes, Dr. Mike can tell you, because when he does pelvic floor, he owns a pelvic floor company.
I know.
I'm telling you, the number of people that I've had that have been on my table on their fifth surgery, done with their fifth surgery unsuccessfully, and then we're able to take them, and had they to not have to go through all that, it just seems like go for the least to most when it comes to medicine. And
Yes.
I'm so thankful for finding someone who's got the same mindset as I do when it comes to those kind of things, Dr. Boone. So I can't wait to have you on more of these kind of topics of conversation, and we are going to absolutely conver later on down the road, I promise. So thank you.
Okay,
Sounds good. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And everybody be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.